edition of All About Hopkinton, the original HCAM series created to bring you the people and organizations that help make our community the great place that it is. I'm Mary Arnott. There are a lot of groups and there are a lot of people dedicating their time, energy, and talents to improve some aspect of life in Hopkinton. I am privileged to be sitting here talking with them and sharing their stories with you. Joining me today is Naomi and Annie Covino of the Brown Dog Coalition. Naomi, welcome. Annie, welcome. And I see we have a little Gracie here too with us, so welcome to Gracie. She may talk too much, but we'll talk about her. How's that?
Sure.
Well, I'm really glad you could be on the show today because you've done some wonderful work in a very short time that you've started your organization. So perhaps we could start with a little bit of background. How did Brown Dog Coalition get started?
Sure. So it really started when I adopted my dog, Libby, who's a brown dog, and hence we named it Brown Dog Coalition. And I just fell in love with her. My kids had gone off to college, and she just was the light of my life. And I realized that there's such a need for rescue dogs and people to rescue and save these dogs from really bad situations. And so I decided to try to help out, and I'd retired from my career and wanted to give back. And so that's how it got started.
Well, I have to say in a very short time, because the organization is relatively new, it's a nonprofit as I understand it, and you've done, both of you have done so much good work already in helping dogs and a couple of cats get adopted. Tell us a little bit about the mission, because you have the adoption program and you also have the foster programs.
Sure. Well, we're a foster-based rescue, so that means we don't have a brick-and-mortar shelter to bring the dogs. And so every 2 weeks we have dogs that come up, and we've pre-advertised them on one of the websites. And we have also looked at applications and usually have applicants lined up for the dogs, which is great. And so they'll come for a meet and greet at our house. It's a really nice environment, a nice backyard to relax in, and they will see if the dog is the right fit for their family, and we assess and make sure they're good for that situation, whether they have dogs or cats or kids or adults, and how long they're going to be gone every day and things like that. Any of the dogs that don't get adopted that day, they go into foster. And so we have fosters. One of our fosters is fostering Gracie right now. She's also one of our board members, and that means that they'll take the dog home with them and give them love and attention and a little bit of training, and they're available to meet beyond that first day that they come up. So if dogs aren't adopted right away, then they'll go to the foster home and they're available to meet then.
And what a sweet little dog she is. She's just sitting there in Annie's lap. The lights don't even bother her. She's just relaxing and taking a little nap while we're chatting away. So, Annie, now Naomi mentioned that the dogs come up. Where do they come up from? Tell a little background of where these dogs, a lot of them are actually coming from.
So Gracie and a lot of the dogs that we've been getting are from Alabama, from a shelter in Florence, Lauderdale, and there are tons of dogs going into that shelter every single day, and there's not nearly enough adopters. And thankfully, Massachusetts is in a great place for dogs, and there are a lot of families that have a lot of love to give, and so to bring them up here and to find them homes is really an ideal situation for them.
Wonderful. And Naomi, how do these dogs, you're rescuing dogs is what you're doing, and what's happening with all these dogs that there are so many who need homes?
Sure.
How do they get to be in that situation?
Yeah, I think Massachusetts has done a great job with their spay-neuter program for dogs in particular, and so you don't see stray dogs running around like maybe 30 years ago. There might have been dogs roaming the neighborhoods. So Massachusetts is in really good shape, but down south they still have to do a lot of work with spay-neuter. So that's another part of our mission, is to really support and provide funds to do spay-neuter campaigns. And so this shelter that we're working with, literally they can get 50 dogs surrendered in a day. And they have a lot of really, really nice dogs, and that's the thing that we really try to pick dogs that are going to make great pets for families. So they're usually good with kids, cats, and dogs. Gracie's a great example of being a sweetheart. She is not always like this, though. She has another side of her where she's full of energy and very playful and loves to play with other dogs, even dogs that are bigger than her. And so, we try to place her in a family that will give her either the attention that she needs, or perhaps they might have other dogs also. And so it's important to us to bring up dogs that are that kind of good temperament and that will fit in with families. But the spay-neuter campaigns in Florence and in Alabama, as well as they still run into stories where dogs are tossed out of windows and really terrible abuse situations. And so we try to provide the extra medical care that's needed for some of those. There's a dog that we're bringing up in the month of October, and they named her Naomi after me, which is a little embarrassing. But she was hit by a car. She was abandoned on a highway and hit by a car, and she broke her femur, and she had to have surgery with a plate put in and stitches. And now she's in foster down in Alabama and is getting healthy to come up north. I should talk just for a minute about the vetting process,
Sure.
if that's okay.
Please do, go ahead.
So when they come into the Alabama shelter, they immediately give them shots and deworming and defleeing, and they're seen by a vet. They have to go out of the shelter for at least 14 days before they travel north, so they're in a foster home, which means that they're not being exposed every day to new dogs coming in that might be shedding some virus or what have you. And so it's a very thorough process. They have to go to the vet in Alabama before they get on the transport truck to get a final health certificate. They have to have all their shots. They have to be spayed and neutered. And then when they come up to Massachusetts, there's a state law where they have to be quarantined for 48 hours. So there's a lot of red tape and a lot of steps you have to take to bring the dog into Massachusetts and work as an official rescue or shelter. So we have a quarantine facility that we bring the dogs to, or that they're brought to immediately with the transport vehicle. They stay there for 48 hours, and then they're seen by another vet before they're released to us. So they've seen multiple vets by the time they get to us. They're generally in very good health. Some of them might have a little bit of itchiness. In fact, Gracie was taken to the vet yesterday because she has allergies, and so she's got a little pink belly and has been scratching a little bit, and so sometimes that's one of the things that you might see, but we really pride ourselves on bringing up healthy animals for adoption.
Yes, and all those steps that you were talking about, it does seem that one of the priorities is to make sure that the dogs are healthy and feeling better and fully recovered from whatever terrible conditions they were suffering, but also so that when people adopt them, they know that they're getting an animal that's been seen and been given all the right shots and is healthy again and ready for a loving family to adopt them.
Right.
Yeah. Now, you say when they come up, so there's an organization in Alabama that you're working with, and where are they sourcing the rescue dogs from?
They're like a city pound, and they're in a more urban setting, and so they get surrenders from the community. So it's both a farm community and just people from all over. So they're unwanted puppies. There's quite a few puppies. So I should mention too, we specialize in puppies and medium-sized dogs. And so this Gracie's an example of a puppy. She's only about 3 months old, though I'm not sure how much bigger she's going to get. She's a mix of Jack Russell and Beagle, although it's hard to tell what they are.
Sometimes,
and so
yeah.
we very much take a guess often on what the breed is, but that's our best guess for her. And so they're getting them from the community, and it's just quite different than it is up north.
Well, I wanted to mention your website, the Brown Dog Coalition and Rescue.
Just browndogcoalition.com.
Yeah. Okay, and we'll put that up on the screen at the end of the show. But it's a wonderful website. It's very well done. and has so much information, some wonderful pictures. And do you want to talk about any aspects of it, or would you like me to talk about it? Because I love it, but go ahead.
So maybe Annie could talk about it, because Annie's a student at BU. She's a senior, and she's kind of the force behind the website and many of the projects that we've done.
So the website, we just had so many great pictures from the different service trips we've done of the dogs and of volunteers, and so putting together the website was really fun. And I don't know.
You have different sections on the website. I know it
Yeah.
talks a little bit about, who we are in terms of Brown Dog Coalition. It also talks about the fees. If somebody wants to adopt a dog, it has pictures. You've had some wonderful success stories in just a very short time, because the organization's only, about a year and a half old?
Right.
Yeah, so you've had wonderful success stories, and I think Gracie's picture is out there that I remember seeing a picture on the, so it has the available dogs.
Right.
And it also has stories of dogs that have already been adopted, and sometimes little comments by the family that adopted them, so.
Yep,
Yeah.
that was Annie's brainchild to put that together, of the little success stories. And I don't know if you want to talk about any of our recent ones that aren't up there, like Cortez or Cole.
Yeah.
Yeah, just tell us, pick a success story and tell us a little bit about the dog. Or
Well, one that's not up there is a story about a dog named Cortez. That one of the things that is a studied fact is that dogs that are black in color don't get adopted as quickly as other dogs, and so there's a lot of dogs in the Alabama shelter that just aren't going to get adopted. And so Cortez was a dog that is probably a lab, like a border collie mix, mostly black with a little bit of white, a little bit longer hair, and no one would want him in Alabama. And he came up to our rescue, and a family met him from Medway, and they have 3 boys, 2 twin 8-year-olds and a 7-year-old. So some very active boys, if you can imagine that. So the mom already had me sold just by having that group of kids. But they adopted Cortez, and he meets them at the bus stop every day. He checks on the boys every night before he puts himself to bed. He goes around to each of the
Isn't that
bedrooms,
wonderful?
yep, and checks to make sure that they're all tucked in. And then he puts himself to bed in his crate, and they just think he's the best dog ever. And to hear that is why we do it. That type of kind of a throwaway dog in Alabama is this great family pet here in Massachusetts. So that's what makes it all worthwhile.
yeah, especially since some of the dogs have suffered such terrible situations, and yet they get a little love and a little care, and they're these wonderful pets.
Right. They blossom. Yeah.
They blossom.
Yeah.
They're not, they're not angry, or
Right.
and they're very well. You
Right.
can adopt them and feel very comfortable that you have a wonderful pet in your home.
Right.
And I hope the boys don't drive Cortez too crazy, because they probably have a lot of energy, but
Well,
it sounds like that situation's working out very well.
Yeah, the border
Yeah.
collie in him, he runs so fast, and they have a fenced-in backyard, and the boys and him just run around like crazy in the backyard, and it's a joy to see. I was really happy.
You mentioned too that you have a lot of puppies. Oftentimes I find that dogs that are rescued are older dogs that have been abandoned and are not in good care, but you have a lot of puppies. So for people who want to adopt a younger dog and grow up with them and have the dog grow up with them, they can find a good puppy then with you also.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we try to specialize in puppies, and then also the medium-sized dogs. And then in addition to taking those dogs, every so often we are trying to take either a senior dog or a dog that might be harder to adopt. So we took a 10-year-old beagle named Norman, which was a great name for him. And again, a family adopted him on day one, and they're a Russian family. They renamed him Anatoly, which is an adorable little name. And he fits right in with they have 2 other dogs and cats, and he fits right in with their pack and is doing marvelous. So although we normally get younger dogs, we do try to adopt a few older dogs and a few dogs that are a little bit harder to adopt. I also, if I can give a shout out to what we're calling ourselves the Mass Rescue Trio. There's several small shelters that are rescues in the area, and we're trying to partner up and be as much of a community as possible. And so in Uxbridge, there's an organization called Pawfik Life. That's where Gracie is actually from, is Pawfik Life, and she's available for adoption through them. And then we have another shelter or a rescue in Holliston that is Yellow Rose of Texas, and they take dogs up from Texas. So what I like to say is they specialize in little dachshunds and little tiny dogs. We do the medium dogs, and Pawfik Life does the large dogs. So we have a small, medium, and a large. So depending upon what you're looking for, we can kind of point you in the right direction. So if we don't have a dog that fits what you're looking for, one of our fellow rescues, I'm sure they would too.
Yeah, that's really good. You can point them to another organization if they don't happen to find a dog with you, because there are so many dogs that need adopting and need care. And also on the website, maybe we should talk a little bit about it. People can get the information from there, but talk about the fees and the expenses, and I'm sure you need donations to help keep the organization. So why don't we talk about that area a little bit?
So the fees to adopt a dog, regardless of the age, is $475, and that covers all of their vetting. It also, they come microchipped, they come with a collar, and they're already spayed and neutered. And so that is just about covering our costs to bring the dogs up. And if there's ever a situation where we have a dog that needs additional vetting in Alabama, like the dog with the broken leg, or there's another dog who we helped out with surgery, that all is above and beyond the adoption fees. And so we're saying, I think we're bringing up a $3,000 dog because of the surgery she had. And so anything that can be done for donations is wonderful. Right now, we have a drive to collect shoes. And so if anyone has shoes, whether they're sneakers or sandals or work shoes or anything at all, you can drop them off at Brown Dog Coalition at 4 Andrea Drive through October 31st, and we're doing that as a drive. So Hopkinton residents, that's one way that they could really help out. The other way that Hopkinton residents can help out is fostering. We do have some dedicated fosters, and thank you to the people that have fostered the dogs and continue to foster the dogs. But in order for us to continue to do this, we need more fosters. And if they can be local in Hopkinton, it just makes the drive back and forth much easier on the dog and kind of on the scheduling and flexibility. There's a way to apply online on the website for fosters. And again, if you have kids and other dogs and cats, that's fine. Most of our animals that come up get along great with everybody. And in fact, Gracie right now is with 3 other dogs and 6 cats, I do believe, and she's having a ball and playing with the bigger dogs. I think she thinks she's a bigger dog. So, so fostering, the shoe drive.
Now, what's happening with that? Let me ask you on the shoe drive. What's happening that donating shoes helps your organization?
It's through another kind of secondary fundraiser that they're collecting shoes. I believe it's for microeconomics. Is that what it's called? Where they're sanitizing the shoes, and then they're going to third world countries to be either resold or given away, and so they're collecting the shoes, and they're giving nonprofits money to collect the shoes, and so that's what's going on with that.
All right, everybody get your shoes together and drop them off. I know I have a few pair I could probably get rid of.
I know, I'm cleaning out my closets just for this.
And I did want to mention too, the fees of $475, when you consider everything that's done for the dogs. Like you said, they get a chip for identification, they've been spayed and neutered, they've been taken and seen care by. That's not a lot of money to do all those things with.
Right.
So you're not really making money. This is a nonprofit,
Right.
and everything's going toward the care of the dog and to get them adopted or get them into a temporary foster home. And
Right. Yeah. So if people are thinking about adopting a dog, the cost per year of owning a dog, and between the vet visits and the food and the doggy daycare and the leashes and the beds and the, this, that, and the other thing, it does add up. And so we estimate that it costs somewhere north of $2,000 a year to own a dog. And so it's one of the things we want to make sure is that people can financially afford to have a dog. And so that's one thing to think about if you're looking to adopt. The other thing is how much time you have, whether you're able to give the time that's needed to walk the dog and give the dog exercise and love and attention. Sometimes people's lives are very busy, and I think that's the number one thing I hear is, am I going to be gone all day and the dog's just not going to get the attention? So that's another big thing to think about.
well, the cost of owning a dog, certainly you have to have money for its care and its food and everything during the year, but you're taking care of that initial fee with the spade or neuter
Right.
procedure and making sure the dog is healthy. That's a big part of that, at least a first year cost anyway, that you're getting that out of the way for them.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yep.
Are there any other success stories you want to mention? I know there was some on the website. I think there was one where it looked like they were all named after storms or something, Katrina and Stormy, and I thought maybe those dogs were rescued from the bad storms that occurred and they were left abandoned or
Yeah, that mom was named Sandy, and after
Stormy.
Stormy.
Oh, Stormy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Stormy.
after a hurricane. And do you remember the story?
There was a terrible hurricane, and I think her and her puppies were rescued. They were seen the day of the hurricane, and then it happened overnight, and they made it through the morning and were rescued the next day. And so she came up with four of her puppies, and that was her whole litter, and they were named Katrina, Ivan, Gilbert, and Sandy.
Yeah.
And they were just the sweetest puppies, and she was the sweetest mom
Yes.
too. And it's amazing to see the moms come up with their litters, because you get to see them from when they first got rescued, and you can see their little hip bones, and they've just given everything they have to their puppies, and it's really amazing to see it through, that they're going to a home where they get to be a dog and not have to worry about their puppies and things that dogs really shouldn't be worrying about in modern day society.
Yeah, and they were all adopted. That was one of the success
Yeah.
stories.
Right.
The mom and the puppies were all adopted, and they're doing well, as all of the dogs on your success story part of your website are all doing well.
Yeah.
Yeah. Go ahead.
So
Did
just
you-
to explain, if people are looking to adopt, the best thing to do is to look on our website. We post the dogs under adoptable dogs. We also list them on Pet Finder and Adopt a Pet, and get a lot of our adopters through there. And we ask that they fill out an application. We check references. We check a vet reference if they have previous animals. We talk to the landlord if they rent, and just make sure that everything looks good with their application. And then we'll set up a specific time for them to meet the dog or the puppy on Saturday. And we schedule it out. People were really happy this past Saturday, just saying what a lovely process it was, because it's so relaxed and they can spend time with the dogs and there's no wait and things like that. So it's a nice process. They can take the dog for a walk, they can play with the dog, and then if things work out, they generally can take the dog home the same day. And so that's really the key, is to fill out the application ahead of time and check out the website, because as soon as the dogs are up for adoption, they'll be listed, and as soon as they're adopted, they automatically come off the website.
And if somebody takes a dog into a foster situation, that's not permanent,
Right.
obviously. So is there any average kind of amount of time that they usually foster a dog before it gets adopted, or I guess it just depends on the dog and the situation?
Yeah, I think we've had dogs in foster for a week, but really not much longer than that. There's some other foster-based rescues where the dogs can be there for a really long time, and our dogs, because their temperament, and because I think we're marketing the dogs quite a bit, and there's the desire for dogs up here. That they're moving really quickly, and so sometimes it's just for a night that they're fostering, and sometimes it's for a week. It could be for 3 weeks, I'd say, but generally I think they move pretty quickly. We also have another type of foster that does foster to adopt, and so if there's a dog that, or they're also called foster failures, so they'll bring a dog home with them, and they just can't let them go, and I think she's going to be hard to let go. And so they end up adopting, and so that it's a foster failure, but it's meant in the best way possible.
Well, I want to say thank you again for all the wonderful work you do. Congratulations on the success of your organization. I hope people watching the program will go out to fill out an application to adopt, to foster, or to donate.
Great.
Yeah. Check the website for that. Thank you both very much for, again, being on the show. And thank you for joining us for this program and hearing about Naomi and Annie, and the Brown Dog Coalition. For more information about their group, visit their website. For more information concerning All About Hopkinton, find us on hcam.tv. If you or someone you know is having an impact on our community, we want to hear about it. Send an email and perhaps you'll find them sharing their story right here on All About Hopkinton. I'm Mary Arnott, and thanks for watching.
Welcome to Hopkinton Coffee Break.
A very special dessert done by a woman from Hopkinton that I've started using regularly.
We had your residents participating both as vendors and as shoppers, and that was so much fun. Real Hopkinton Housewives, if you're on Facebook, you will have a blast. Thanks for joining us.
Cheers, guys.
Thank you. Yeah, good to see you too.
See you guys.
Bye-bye.